The moment I signed my name on the final document, silence filled the title company office like a thick fog. My realtor Sandra shuffled papers awkwardly while I sat alone at the mahogany conference table holding keys to my first home. 3 years of saving every penny had led to this moment, yet my phone buzzed with 17 unread messages from family demanding money for their latest crisis. Not one congratulations, not one acknowledgement of my achievement. I silenced the device, gripped those brass keys, and walked toward my car completely unaware that my family's financial desperation would soon transform into something far more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. The cardboard boxes scattered throughout my new 2-bedroom ranch in suburban Dayton felt like puzzle pieces waiting to create something beautiful. Sunlight streamed through bare windows as I arranged my home office, setting up my laptop for remote marketing work. This modest house represented freedom from the cramped apartment where thin walls meant hearing every neighbor's argument. Now I had space to breathe, to think, to become the person I always knew I could be. My phone buzzed against the kitchen counter where I had left it charging. A notification from our family group chat caught my attention. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the conversation thread that had been active all morning. Lena's sitting on a gold mine now. My father Harold had written 4 hours earlier. She bought that house cash down, so she's got plenty left over. My brother Marcus had responded with laughing emojis. Time for little sis to share the wealth. I've been waiting long enough. Mom Carol chimed in with her usual passive-aggressive approach. She's always been selfish with money. Remember when she wouldn't help with Christmas gifts last year? The messages continued, each one more presumptuous than the last. They discussed my finances like I was a lottery winner, hiding secret millions. The reality was starkly different. My savings account held exactly $742 after the down payment, closing costs, and moving expenses. Every dollar had been carefully calculated to ensure I could make mortgage payments without falling behind on other bills. My phone rang, interrupting my growing anger. Harold's name appeared on the screen. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but experience taught me that ignored calls only led to more dramatic confrontations later. "Lena, sweetheart, congratulations on your new place." His voice carried that familiar tone of forced enthusiasm that always preceded a financial request. "Your mother and I are so proud of you." "Thank you." I kept my response neutral, sensing the conversation's inevitable direction. "Listen, I need to talk to you about something important. Marcus is in a real bind here. His Honda finally died yesterday, and you know how his landscaping business depends on reliable transportation." I knew Marcus's business consisted of mowing 3 neighbors' lawns every other week, hardly a thriving enterprise requiring commercial-grade equipment. Harold continued without waiting for my response. "The thing is, he found this perfect truck, a brand-new Ford F-150 that would really set him up for success, but he needs $33,000 to make it happen." The number hit me like cold water. $33,000 represented more than my entire annual salary after taxes. I had worked overtime for months, skipped dinners out with friends, and bought generic groceries to save enough for my house. "Dad, I don't have that kind of money. I just bought a house. Every penny I saved went toward the down payment and closing costs." "Come on, Lena, we know you're doing well. You've got that fancy marketing job working from home, and you bought that house without even asking for family help." The accusation in his voice made my stomach twist. Since college graduation, I had received exactly $0 in family support. Every achievement, every milestone, every success had been earned through my own effort and sacrifice. I worked 3 part-time jobs during college to avoid student loans. I've been saving for this house since I was 25. I don't have extra money sitting around. Harold's tone shifted, becoming harder. "Marcus owes some people, Lena. Serious people. They're not the kind to wait around for payment." "What kind of people?" The question escaped before I could stop myself. "The kind that don't take no for an answer. Marcus got in over his head with some gambling debts. These guys are expecting their money by Friday, and I already told them payment was coming." My heart sank. Harold had made promises on my behalf without consulting me, a pattern that had repeated throughout my childhood. He would commit to things using other people's resources, then act surprised when those people couldn't deliver. You had no right to promise them anything using my name or money. Family helps family, Lena. Your mother's been stressed to the point of chest pains worrying about Marcus. We raised you better than this. The guilt trip was classic Harold, but something inside me had changed since signing those mortgage papers. Owning my own home had awakened a sense of self-worth that refused to be manipulated. My mortgage payment is $1,500 a month. My car payment is $300. Insurance, utilities, groceries, and everything else leaves me with very little breathing room. I cannot give Marcus $33,000. You're choosing a house over your own brother's safety. I'm choosing financial responsibility over enabling bad decisions. The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if he had hung up. When Harold finally spoke, his voice carried a menacing edge I had never heard before. We'll see about that. Don't say I didn't give you a chance to handle this the easy way. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, processing the threat embedded in his final words. Outside my kitchen window, a cardinal landed on the fence post, its bright red feathers a stark contrast against the gray October sky. This beautiful moment in my new home felt tainted by family drama that I had hoped to escape. I walked through each room of my house, running my fingers along walls that belonged to me. No landlord could evict me. No roommate could move out and leave me scrambling for rent money. This space was mine earned, through sacrifice and determination. Whatever storm my family was brewing, I would weather it from the safety of my own fortress. Morning coffee tasted different in my own kitchen, served in my favorite mug without worrying about running out of shared milk or sugar. The peaceful moment shattered when my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification from Carol. Her recorded voice trembled with practiced desperation. "Lena, honey, your father had chest pains last night after you two talked. I'm so worried about his heart. The doctor says stress can trigger attacks, and this situation with Marcus is killing him. Please call me back. We need to figure something out before something terrible happens." The emotional manipulation felt heavier than usual, weighted with medical concerns that might or might not be real. Carol had used various health scares over the years to control family members from migraine headaches to dizzy spells that conveniently appeared during conflicts. I deleted the voicemail and focused on preparing for work. My laptop connected seamlessly to the new internet service, and I settled into my home office chair to begin Monday morning tasks for the digital marketing agency where I had worked for the past 3 years. Creating social media campaigns for small businesses felt satisfying in a way that family drama never could. Around noon, my desk phone rang with an internal number. Jennifer, my supervisor, asked if I could come to the lobby for a moment. This unusual request made my stomach flutter with concern as I walked downstairs. Marcus stood near the reception desk, his voice raised loud enough that other employees had stopped their conversations to stare. His work clothes were dirty, suggesting he had come directly from a landscaping job, and his face was red with frustration. "She's my sister, and I need to talk to her right now. This is a family emergency." Jennifer approached me with professional concern. "Lena, your brother says there's an urgent family matter. Would you like to speak with him privately in conference room B?" The embarrassment burned my cheeks as I nodded and led Marcus toward the small meeting room. Through the glass walls, I could see my coworkers watching with curiosity and concern. My professional reputation was being damaged by family chaos that I had worked hard to keep separate from my career. Marcus slammed the door behind us and immediately launched into his prepared speech. "Lena, you're being completely unreasonable. Dad explained the situation to you yesterday, and you're choosing to let your own brother get hurt rather than share some of your good fortune." "My good fortune, Marcus, I work 50 hours a week and live on a strict budget. I don't have thousands of dollars lying around." "Don't lie to me. We looked up the average salary for your job title. Marketing coordinators make between $45,000 and $60,000 a year. Plus, you've been living in that cheap apartment, so we know you've been saving money. The fact that they had researched my profession and made assumptions about my finances felt like a violation of privacy. They had calculated my worth without considering my expenses, my goals, or my right to spend my own money as I chose. Even if I made twice what you think I do, that wouldn't obligate me to pay for your truck. Marcus's expression shifted from angry to calculating. It's not just a truck, Lena. It's about respect, about showing people that our family takes care of each other. How do you think it looks when my sister buys a house but won't help me get reliable work transportation? Since when do you care what people think about our family? Since my girlfriend Ashley started asking questions about why my little sister has her life together while I'm struggling with basic transportation. The truth emerged like sunlight through storm clouds. This wasn't about work or necessity. Marcus wanted a new truck to impress his girlfriend and compete with his sister's success. The $33,000 price tag wasn't for a practical work vehicle, but for his ego and image. Marcus, you can buy a perfectly reliable used truck for $8,000 or $10,000. Why does it have to be brand new? Because I'm tired of driving something that breaks down every month. Ashley's ex-boyfriend has a new Chevy Silverado, and I'm not going to look like a loser next to him. The admission confirmed my suspicions. This had nothing to do with business needs or financial emergencies. Marcus wanted me to finance his competition with another man for his girlfriend's attention. I'm not paying for you to have a prettier truck than some other guy. You're being selfish, Lena. Family is supposed to support each other. When you needed help with college application fees, who paid for them? The question caught me off guard. Marcus had indeed paid for 3 college application fees when I was 18, a gesture I had always appreciated. But that $75 favor hardly justified a $33,000 truck payment 7 years later. That was different, Marcus. Application fees were an investment in my education. This is you wanting an expensive toy. So my success doesn't matter. Only yours does. Your success matters, but it has to be built on your own effort, not on my bank account. Marcus stood up so quickly that his chair rolled backward into the wall. Fine, but don't expect me to keep quiet about how my sister lives in her fancy house while her family suffers. People need to know what kind of person you really are. The threat was clear. Marcus planned to damage my reputation by telling anyone who would listen that I was heartless and selfish. In our small community where professional relationships often overlapped with personal ones, this could impact my career and social connections. Are you threatening to lie about me? I don't need to lie. The truth is enough. My sister has money but won't help her struggling brother. Let people draw their own conclusions. Marcus left the conference room without another word. Through the glass walls, I watched him walk past my co-workers with theatrical dejection, shaking his head sadly as if he had just received devastating news. Jennifer approached the conference room as soon as he was gone. Is everything all right? Your brother seemed very upset. Family financial issues, nothing that affects my work performance. Jennifer nodded, but her expression remained concerned. If you need some personal time to handle family matters, we can arrange that. Thank you, but I'm fine. I'll make sure any future family discussions happen outside work hours. The rest of my workday felt tainted by embarrassment and anger. Marcus had deliberately chosen my workplace for his confrontation, knowing it would cause professional discomfort and potential damage to my reputation. This calculated cruelty revealed a side of my brother that I had never fully acknowledged. That evening, I tried to relax in my new living room, but concentration proved impossible. Every small sound outside made me wonder if more family members were coming to continue the pressure campaign. Around 7:30, car doors slammed in my driveway. Through the front window, I saw all 3 family members walking toward my porch. Harold led the group with determined strides. Carol followed close behind her face, set in an expression of hurt disappointment. Marcus brought up the rear, his earlier anger replaced by smug satisfaction. They had clearly planned this coordinated assault. The doorbell rang 3 times in quick succession. I took a deep breath and opened the door but remained in the doorway rather than inviting them inside. "We need to talk," Harold announced without preamble. "This situation has gone on long enough." "I said everything I needed to say yesterday." "No, you didn't. You said what you wanted to say, but you didn't listen to what we need you to understand." Carol stepped forward with tears already forming in her eyes. "Lena, honey, I haven't slept in 2 days worrying about Marcus. Those people he owes money to aren't going to wait much longer." "What people exactly who does Marcus owe money to?" Marcus and Harold exchanged glances before Harold answered. "Some guys from the poker game at Jerry's bar. Marcus had a run of bad luck and got in deeper than he should have." "How much deeper?" "About $15,000 in poker debts plus interest." The number was half of what Harold had originally claimed Marcus needed. If his debts were $15,000, why did he need $33,000 for a truck? So the truck isn't related to his debts. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "The truck is for my business. I need reliable transportation to expand my client base." "Then get a business loan." "I tried. My credit isn't good enough." "Because of the gambling?" "Because of a lot of things." Harold stepped closer to the door. "The point is, Marcus needs help, and you're the only family member in a position to provide it. We've looked into your finances, Lena." "You've looked into my finances." Carol pulled out her smartphone and showed me several screenshots of my social media posts, photos of my new house pictures from a recent dinner out with friends, images of a weekend shopping trip to Target for home decorations. "We can see you're doing well. These posts show someone who has plenty of disposable income." The invasion of privacy felt like a physical blow. They had been monitoring my social media accounts, taking screenshots, and building a case against me based on carefully curated moments from my life. Social media doesn't show my mortgage payment, my student loans, or my monthly expenses. Harold's patience was clearly wearing thin. "We also know you used our address as a reference on some loan applications." My blood ran cold. "What loan applications?" "The ones we filled out to help Marcus. We used your employment information and salary details to secure a personal loan for his truck fund." "You forged my signature on loan documents." Marcus stepped forward with defensive anger. "We didn't forge anything. We just used your information as collateral. Your family. Your credit helps all of us." The magnitude of their betrayal hit me like falling concrete. They had used my personal information, my credit history, and my employment details to secure loans without my knowledge or consent. This wasn't just emotional manipulation anymore. It was financial fraud. "Get off my property, all of you, right now." Harold's expression hardened. "We're not leaving until we settle this." "Yes, you are. This is my house, and I'm telling you to leave." "Or what you'll call the police on your own family." The challenge in his voice made it clear that he didn't believe I would follow through with any serious consequences. In his mind, family loyalty would always prevent me from taking legal action against them. "If I have to." Carol grabbed Harold's arm. "Maybe we should go home and talk about this more tomorrow." "No, we're settling this tonight." I stepped backward into my house and began closing the door. Harold immediately put his hand against it, preventing me from shutting them out. "We raised you better than this, Lena. Family doesn't abandon family. And family doesn't commit fraud using other family members' information." I pushed harder against the door, but Harold was stronger and forced it back open. The physical confrontation escalated my fear into genuine panic. These people were no longer just emotionally manipulative. They were becoming physically threatening. "I'm calling the police." Harold laughed bitterly. "Go ahead. Tell them you're calling the cops on your parents because they asked you for help." I retreated further into my house while dialing 911. Marcus followed me inside with Harold and Carol close behind. They were now trespassing in my home, escalating a financial disagreement into something far more serious. The calm voice of the emergency dispatcher provided the first moment of relief I had felt in hours. Help was coming. The fortress I had built for myself would soon be protected by people who understood the difference between family disagreements and criminal behavior. Diana Martinez had been my closest friend since college, But more importantly, she was now a practicing attorney specializing in family law. Her downtown office felt like a sanctuary when I arrived the next morning, still shaken from the previous evening's confrontation. The mahogany bookshelves and leather furniture created an atmosphere of professional competence that I desperately needed. "Tell me everything from the beginning," Diana said, opening a legal pad and preparing to take detailed notes. Her dark hair was pulled back in a professional bun, and her serious expression indicated she understood the gravity of my situation. I recounted the entire sequence of events, from the initial demands for money to the forged loan applications to the family invasion of my home. Diana's expression grew increasingly concerned as I described each escalation. "Using your personal information to secure loans without your consent is identity theft, Lena. This isn't a family disagreement anymore. It's criminal fraud." "What should I do?" "First, we file a police report about the identity theft. Second, you change all your locks immediately. Third, we start documentation for a restraining order if this pattern of harassment continues." Diana walked to her filing cabinet and retrieved several forms. Her efficiency and knowledge provided the first sense of control I had felt since this nightmare began. "Have you checked your credit report lately?" "Not recently." "We need to do that right away. If they've used your information once, they may have done it multiple times." Diana's assistant helped me access my credit report online. The results were worse than I had feared. 3 credit cards had been opened in my name over the past 6 months, with a combined balance of over $8,000. All 3 cards showed Harold's name as an authorized user. "This has been going on for months," Diana said grimly. "They've been systematically using your credit while you saved money for your house." The betrayal felt deeper with each new revelation. While I had been sacrificing and saving, working overtime, and denying myself small pleasures to achieve my dream of homeownership, my family had been stealing from my future financial security. What's our next step? We report all of this to the police immediately. Identity theft is a federal crime and the evidence is clear. Then you freeze your credit to prevent any additional unauthorized accounts. Diana drove with me to the police station where Detective Sarah Coleman took our statement with professional thoroughness. Her 20 years of experience showed in the way she asked detailed questions and documented everything with careful precision. "Have there been any threats of physical violence?" "Harold forced his way into my house last night when I tried to close the door." "Any witnesses to that?" "My neighbors might have seen them arrive. The Jeffersons live next door, and Mrs. Jefferson is usually gardening in the evenings." Detective Coleman made additional notes. "We'll interview the neighbors and review the credit card applications. This appears to be a clear case of identity theft with ongoing harassment." The formal police report felt like drawing a line in the sand. My family had crossed from emotional manipulation into criminal behavior, and law enforcement was now involved. There would be no going back to pretending this was just a family disagreement. That afternoon, Diana and I met with a locksmith to change all the locks on my house. The technician, an older man named Frank, worked efficiently while Diana and I discussed security measures. "You might want to consider a security system," Frank suggested. "Cameras can be helpful if there are ongoing issues with unwanted visitors." "Is that really necessary?" I asked Diana. "Given the escalation pattern we've seen, it's a reasonable precaution." By late afternoon, my house had new locks, a basic security camera system, and motion-activated lights. The physical security measures helped calm my anxiety, but the emotional impact of needing protection from my own family remained devastating. That evening, Harold sent another text message demanding an immediate response to their financial emergency. The message was longer and more aggressive than his previous communications, filled with accusations about my selfishness and threats about consequences for my refusal to help. I stared at my phone for several minutes, considering various responses. Diana had advised against engaging in lengthy arguments via text, suggesting that documentation of their harassment was more valuable than trying to reason with them. Finally, I decided on a response that would communicate my position with absolute clarity. I opened my banking app and initiated a transfer of exactly $1 to Marcus's account. In the message field, I typed, "for gas." The symbolism felt perfect. They had demanded $33,000 for a truck. I was giving them exactly enough money to buy half a gallon of gasoline. The message was clear. I acknowledged their request and responded with the precise level of seriousness it deserved. Within minutes, my phone rang with Harold's number. I let it go to voicemail. The recorded message was filled with profanity and rage, confirming that my symbolic response had been understood exactly as intended. Diana called that evening to check on my emotional state. "How are you holding up?" "Better than I expected. Taking action feels better than being a victim." That's a healthy response. You're reclaiming control over your life and finances. Part of me feels guilty for not helping Marcus with his debts. "Lena, his gambling debts are not your responsibility. Enabling his bad decisions would only encourage more of the same behavior." I know that intellectually. Emotionally, it's harder. That's normal. You were raised in a family system that taught you to prioritize other people's needs over your own. Breaking those patterns takes time and effort. Diana's validation helped ease the guilt that had been gnawing at my conscience. I had been conditioned to believe that family loyalty meant financial sacrifice, regardless of the circumstances or my own needs. Around 10:30 that evening, I heard car doors slamming in my driveway again. The new security cameras showed all 3 family members approaching my front door. This time, however, I felt prepared rather than panicked. The doorbell rang repeatedly, followed by heavy knocking. Harold's voice called through the door, demanding that I open it and discuss the situation like adults. When I didn't respond, the knocking became more aggressive. Then I heard the sound of breaking glass from my kitchen window. My security system immediately triggered sending alerts to my phone and the monitoring company. I grabbed my phone and called 911 while moving to my bedroom and locking the door. 911, what's your emergency? Someone just broke my kitchen window and is trying to enter my house. Are you in immediate danger? Yes, it's my family members. I have a police report on file about ongoing harassment. Officers are en route. Stay on the line with me. Through my bedroom door, I could hear Harold's voice in my kitchen cursing about the broken glass and demanding that I come out to talk. Marcus was telling him to calm down while Carol pleaded with both of them to leave before the police arrived. "They're inside my house now," I told the dispatcher. "One of them broke a window and entered illegally. Officers are 2 minutes away. Can you stay in a secure location until they arrive? I'm locked in my bedroom." The sound of sirens grew louder, and I heard my family members arguing about whether to leave immediately or stay and try to explain their presence. Harold seemed determined to remain and confront me, while Marcus and Carol urged him toward the door. Blue lights flashed outside my bedroom window as police cars arrived. The argument in my kitchen intensified, with Harold insisting that family members had a right to enter each other's homes during emergencies. When the police knocked on my front door and announced themselves, I finally felt safe enough to leave my bedroom. The next few hours would determine whether my family faced consequences for their escalating criminal behavior or continued to believe they could manipulate and threaten me without repercussions. The fortress I had built for myself was about to be defended by people who understood that family relationships didn't justify breaking windows and committing identity theft. Justice was finally within reach. Officer Rodriguez arrived, first followed closely by 2 additional patrol cars. Through my bedroom window, I watched 6 uniformed officers approach my house with professional caution. The sight of law enforcement taking my situation seriously provided immense relief after days of feeling helpless against family manipulation. When I opened the front door for the officers, Harold stood in my kitchen with blood dripping from his right hand, where broken glass had cut him. Marcus hovered near the back door, as if considering escape, while Carol sat at my kitchen table with her head in her hands, finally grasping the severity of their situation. "Ma'am, are you the homeowner?" Officer Rodriguez asked me directly. "Yes, these are my family members. They broke my kitchen window to enter the house after I refused to let them in." Officer Rodriguez surveyed the scene with experienced eyes. Broken glass covered my kitchen floor, and the window frame showed clear evidence of forced entry. Harold's bleeding hand provided additional proof of how the break-in had occurred. "Sir, I need you to step outside so we can sort this situation out," Rodriguez told Harold. "This is my daughter's house. We're having a family discussion." "Sir, breaking windows to enter someone's home without permission is called burglary regardless of your relationship to the homeowner. Please step outside." Marcus immediately headed for the back door. "Officers, we were just trying to help our sister understand a family emergency." "Stop right there, sir. Nobody leaves until we get statements from everyone." Detective Coleman arrived within 20 minutes, having been contacted about the ongoing harassment case. Her presence elevated the seriousness of the situation and indicated that this wasn't being treated as a simple domestic dispute. "Miss Thompson, this is the same family you filed the identity theft report about yesterday." "Yes, they've escalated to breaking into my house now." Coleman took detailed photographs of the broken window, Harold's injured hand, and the glass scattered across my kitchen floor. Each photo would serve as evidence in what was clearly becoming a criminal case. Harold attempted to charm his way out of trouble. "Officers, I think there's been a misunderstanding. This is my daughter, and we're going through a family financial crisis. Sometimes families have disagreements. Breaking someone's window to enter their home isn't a disagreement, sir. It's breaking and entering." Carol finally looked up from the kitchen table with tears streaming down her face. "Officers, we're desperate. Our son owes money to dangerous people, and we thought Lena could help us. We never meant for things to get this crazy." Her admission provided crucial evidence that their behavior was part of a pattern of financial pressure and harassment. Detective Coleman documented every word while the patrol officers maintained order. Mrs. Thompson's desperation doesn't justify criminal behavior. Your daughter has the right to decide how she spends her own money. Marcus tried a different approach. "Officers, our family has always helped each other. Lena just bought a house, so we know she has financial resources. We're not asking for charity. We're asking for family support." Officer Rodriguez had clearly dealt with similar family dynamics before. "Sir, your sister's financial obligations are her business. You don't have the right to demand money from anyone, family or otherwise." "But they're threatening to hurt me if I don't pay them back." "Then you should have filed a police report about those threats instead of harassing your sister." The logic was undeniable. Marcus had chosen to pressure me for money rather than seek legal protection from his alleged creditors. His priorities revealed that this was more about getting a new truck than avoiding genuine danger. Detective Coleman pulled me aside for a private conversation while the patrol officers continued questioning my family members. "Miss Thompson, we found evidence of additional credit card fraud during our investigation yesterday." "More credit cards?" "Your father has been using your personal information to make online purchases for the past 18 months. We found charges for restaurant equipment, gambling websites, and luxury items totaling over $12,000. The scope of Harold's financial crimes against me was expanding with each new revelation. While I had been working overtime to save money for my house, he'd been spending my future credit on failed business ventures and gambling losses. Can you recover the money? We'll work with the credit card companies to reverse the fraudulent charges. Your father will face additional federal charges for mail fraud and identity theft." Officer Rodriguez approached with Harold in handcuffs. "Miss Thompson, we're arresting your father for breaking and entering, vandalism, and identity theft. Your brother is being cited for trespassing." "What about my mother?" "She's cooperating with our investigation and hasn't been directly involved in the financial crimes. We're releasing her with a warning about future harassment." Carol stood up from the kitchen table with obvious relief. "Lena, I'm so sorry this got so out of control. I never wanted Harold to go this far. But you supported him every step of the way. I was scared about our financial situation. We owe so much money to so many people. When we heard you bought a house, it seemed like maybe you could help us get back on our feet." By stealing my credit and breaking into my home? Carol had no answer for that. Her desperation had led her to enable Harold's increasingly criminal behavior. but she was finally beginning to understand the line they had crossed. Detective Coleman handed me paperwork for an emergency protective order. This prevents all three of them from contacting you or coming within 500 feet of your home or workplace for the next 2 weeks. We can extend it if necessary. Will this go on their permanent records? Yes, identity theft is a federal crime and breaking and entering is a felony. Your father will likely face jail time. The weight of consequences was finally becoming real for my family. Their financial desperation had led them down a path of criminal behavior that would have lasting legal and personal repercussions. Marcus was released after receiving his citation, but his cocky attitude had disappeared entirely. Lena. I never thought Dad would actually break your window. This whole thing got way out of hand. It got out of hand the moment you demanded money I don't have for a truck you don't need. I know that now, but what am I supposed to do about the people I owe money to? Get a second job, sell something you own, make payment arrangements, handle it like an adult instead of expecting your sister to fix your mistakes. Officer Rodriguez provided me with contact information for victim services and resources for family financial abuse survivors. The fact that such resources existed indicated that my experience wasn't unusual, which provided both comfort and sadness. That night, I slept in my own house for the first time since the harassment began, protected by law enforcement and a comprehensive security system. The broken kitchen window had been temporarily covered with plywood, but the symbolic damage felt more significant than the physical repair costs. Diana called the next morning to check on my emotional state and discuss next steps in the legal process. How do you feel about your father being arrested? Relieved mostly, also sad that it came to this. That's a normal reaction. You can feel relieved about your safety while still grieving the loss of family relationships. Will this end the harassment? It should. The protective order and criminal charges send a clear message that their behavior has serious consequences. The house felt different that morning, quieter, more peaceful. The constant anxiety about unexpected family visits had been replaced by legal protection and security measures. I was finally free to enjoy the home I had worked so hard to achieve. The morning sun streamed through my bedroom window, illuminating dust motes that danced in the golden light. This house represented more than just real estate or financial investment. It was proof that I could build a life based on my own values and priorities, independent of family pressure and manipulation. The legal system had validated what I had known all along. Families don't have the right to steal from each other regardless of their financial desperation or emotional justifications. Love and loyalty couldn't be purchased with guilt trips and criminal behavior. The federal investigation expanded rapidly once authorities realized the full scope of Harold's financial crimes. Detective Coleman called Wednesday morning to schedule another interview, this time with a federal agent specializing in identity theft cases. Agent Patricia Williams wore a navy blue suit and carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen every variation of financial fraud imaginable. Her office at the federal building downtown felt intimidating, but her manner was reassuring and professional. Ms. Thompson, we've been investigating your father's activities for the past week, and the evidence suggests this goes far beyond your immediate family situation. She opened a thick file folder containing bank statements, credit applications, and correspondence that painted a disturbing picture of systematic fraud. Harold had been using my personal information to open accounts, make purchases, and secure loans for over 2 years. How extensive is it? 17 different accounts using your name, social security number, and employment information. The total fraudulent debt exceeds $28,000. The number was staggering. While I had been carefully budgeting and saving for my house, Harold had been building a mountain of debt in my name. My credit score had likely been damaged without my knowledge, and my financial future had been compromised by someone I trusted. We also found evidence that your father has been intercepting your mail at your previous address. The apartment manager confirmed that Harold Thompson has been picking up mail addressed to you for the past 6 months. This explained how he had obtained sensitive financial information like tax documents and credit card offers. My former landlord had apparently allowed family members to collect my mail without requiring proper authorization. Agent Williams showed me photocopies of loan applications that featured Harold's handwriting, but my personal information. His signature attempts to mimic my own were crude, but apparently sufficient to fool lending institutions that didn't verify identity carefully. What about the money he stole? Can it be recovered? We're working with the credit card companies and banks to reverse the fraudulent charges. You won't be responsible for debts you didn't create. However, repairing your credit score will take time and effort. The financial recovery process would be complex and time-consuming, but at least it was possible. More importantly, Harold would face serious federal charges that carried potential prison sentences. Agent Williams pulled out another folder containing information that surprised me. Your father appears to have been running a small-scale financial fraud operation in your community for several years. What kind of operation? He's been befriending elderly neighbors and offering to help them with financial paperwork. Then he's been opening credit accounts in their names and using their personal information for various scams. The revelation was shocking, but somehow not surprising. Harold's willingness to steal from his own daughter suggested that exploiting vulnerable strangers wouldn't trouble his conscience. How many victims are there? At least 8 that we've identified so far. Your case led us to investigate his other activities, and the evidence of elder abuse is substantial. My decision to report Harold's crimes had apparently protected other innocent people from ongoing financial exploitation. The guilt I had felt about getting my father arrested was diminishing as I learned about his broader criminal activities. Agent Williams handed me a business card for a victim advocate specializing in family financial abuse. This type of crime is more common than people realize. Many victims never report it because they feel guilty about prosecuting family members. That afternoon, Ashley Martinez called my cell phone. Marcus's girlfriend had never contacted me directly before, so her call came as a complete surprise. Lena, I need to talk to you about Marcus and everything that's been happening with your family. What about it? I think you should know that Marcus has been lying to me about his financial situation for months. I just found out about the gambling debts, and I'm starting to understand why he was so desperate for money. Ashley's voice carried genuine concern and embarrassment. She had apparently been kept in the dark about Marcus's gambling problem and the extent of our family's financial troubles. How much do you know about what happened? Marcus told me his sister was being selfish about helping with a work truck. He made it sound like you had plenty of money and were just being mean. But after the police arrested your father, I started asking more questions. What did you find out? Marcus has been stealing money from his landscaping clients. Small amounts at first, but it's gotten worse. He's been billing them for services he never provided and keeping the extra money for gambling. This new information added another layer of criminality to my family's financial troubles. Marcus hadn't just accumulated gambling debts. He had been funding his habit by defrauding the people who trusted him to maintain their properties. Are you going to report him? I already did. I called the police this morning and gave them the names of the clients he's been cheating. I can't be with someone who steals from hard-working people. Ashley's courage impressed me. She was willing to do the right thing even though it meant ending her relationship and potentially sending Marcus to jail. I'm sorry you got dragged into this mess. I'm sorry your family put you through all this stress. Marcus made you sound like a terrible person, but now I understand that he was just looking for someone to blame for his own problems. The conversation with Ashley provided another piece of the puzzle. My family's financial troubles were much deeper and more complex than simple bad luck or temporary setbacks. Harold and Marcus had both been engaging in fraudulent behavior to fund their poor decisions and addictions. That evening, Detective Coleman called with an update about the investigation into Harold's broader criminal activities. We've identified 12 elderly victims in your neighborhood who've been financially exploited by your father. 12 people. Yes, he's been particularly targeting widows and widowers who live alone. He would offer to help with yard work or home maintenance, then gradually gain access to their financial information. The scope of Harold's crimes was expanding beyond anything I had imagined. My father wasn't just a desperate family member making bad decisions. He was a predatory criminal who had been systematically exploiting vulnerable people for years. One of the victims lost over $15,000 to your father's various schemes. Another had her entire life savings drained through fraudulent credit card accounts. The human cost of Harold's crimes was devastating. Elderly people on fixed incomes had been robbed of their financial security by someone they trusted to help them with basic household tasks. Will they be able to recover their money? We're working on it, but some of the stolen funds have already been spent on gambling and failed investments. Recovery will be partial at best for some victims. The knowledge that Harold had destroyed other families' financial security to fund his own poor choices filled me with anger and sadness. These weren't victimless crimes or harmless family disputes. Real people had suffered serious financial harm because of my father's predatory behavior. Agent Williams called later that evening with news about the federal investigation. Your father has agreed to plead guilty to multiple counts of identity theft, mail fraud, and elder abuse. He'll be sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. What about the victims? Will they get their money back? He's agreed to pay restitution as part of his plea agreement. It won't be full compensation, but it's better than nothing. The legal consequences were finally catching up to Harold's years of criminal behavior. Prison time would prevent him from victimizing additional people, and the restitution payments would provide at least partial justice for those he had harmed. As I prepared for bed that night, I reflected on how much my life had changed since signing the papers for my house just 2 weeks earlier. What had seemed like a simple family financial disagreement had revealed a complex web of fraud, theft, and exploitation that extended far beyond my immediate situation. My decision to stand up for myself and refuse to enable Marcus's truck purchase had inadvertently protected an entire community of elderly residents from ongoing financial abuse. Sometimes doing the right thing for yourself also protects other innocent people, even when you don't realize it at the time. The federal courthouse in downtown Dayton felt imposing as I walked through security for Harold's sentencing hearing. 6 weeks had passed since his arrest, and the investigation had uncovered even more victims of his financial schemes. The media coverage had been extensive, with local news stations describing Harold as a trusted neighbor turned predator. Diana accompanied me to provide moral support and legal guidance. Remember, this isn't about revenge. It's about justice and prevention. Agent Williams met us in the hallway outside the courtroom. 12 victims will be providing impact statements today. Your father's crimes affected an entire community. I had prepared my own victim impact statement focusing on the emotional trauma of being betrayed by family and the long-term effects of identity theft on my financial security. Writing it had been therapeutic, helping me process the anger and sadness that had dominated my life for the past month and a half. Marcus arrived with his own attorney, having been charged with embezzlement and fraud related to his landscaping business scams. His plea agreement included community service restitution and probation. Ashley was notably absent, having ended their relationship and moved to Cleveland for a fresh start. Carol entered the courtroom looking significantly older than she had 6 weeks earlier. The stress of Harold's arrest and the family's financial collapse had taken a visible toll. She had enrolled in court-ordered financial counseling and gambling addiction support groups. Harold wore an Orange County jail jumpsuit and appeared smaller, somehow diminished by the weight of his crimes and their consequences. When our eyes met across the courtroom, he looked away immediately, unable to maintain eye contact with the daughter whose life he had tried to destroy. Judge Patricia Morrison called the court to order and began with a summary of Harold's crimes. The list was extensive: 17 counts of identity theft, 12 counts of elder abuse, 8 counts of mail fraud, and multiple counts of credit card fraud. The total financial damage exceeded $140,000. The victim impact statements were heartbreaking. Mrs. Eleanor Jenkins, 83 years old, described how Harold had gained her trust by helping with grocery shopping, then used her personal information to open 5 credit cards and drain her savings account. "I trusted him like a son," she said through tears. "He helped me change light bulbs and fix my leaky faucet. I never imagined he was stealing my Social Security number to destroy my financial security." Mr. Robert Chen, 78, explained how Harold had offered to help with his late wife's estate paperwork, then used the sensitive financial documents to commit fraud. "My wife's life insurance money was meant to help me live with dignity in my remaining years. Harold Thompson stole that dignity along with my money." Each victim's story revealed the calculated nature of Harold's crimes. He had systematically targeted vulnerable elderly residents, building trust through small favors and helpful gestures, then exploiting that trust to commit financial fraud. When my turn came to read my impact statement, I focused on the broader implications of family financial abuse. Your Honor, my father didn't just steal money from me. He stole my sense of safety and trust in family relationships. He taught me that love can be weaponized and that family loyalty can be used to justify criminal behavior. I looked directly at Harold as I continued. But he also taught me something valuable about personal boundaries and the importance of protecting myself from people who would exploit my success to fund their failures. The judge listened carefully to each statement, taking notes and asking occasional clarifying questions. Her attention to detail indicated that she understood the serious impact of Harold's crimes on individual victims and community trust. During a brief recess, Carol approached me in the hallway with obvious nervousness. "Lena, I want you to know that I never knew the extent of what your father was doing to other people. But you knew what he was doing to me." "Yes, and I'm ashamed that I supported him instead of protecting you. I was so scared about our debts that I lost sight of what was right and wrong." Carol's admission of guilt was a first step toward taking responsibility for her role in enabling Harold's criminal behavior. Her financial counseling sessions had apparently helped her understand the difference between normal family support and exploitation. "I've been attending meetings for families of gambling addicts. I'm learning that my enabling behavior made Harold's problems worse instead of better." "What will you do now?" "I'm selling the house to pay off our legitimate debts. I'm moving into a senior apartment complex and starting over with a budget and financial counseling." Carol's plan represented genuine accountability and change. She was taking concrete steps to rebuild her life without depending on criminal behavior or exploiting family members. Marcus joined our conversation with obvious discomfort. "Lena, I wanted to apologize for everything I put you through. Ashley helped me understand that I was being completely unreasonable about the truck money." "Where is Ashley now?" "She moved to Cleveland and started nursing school. She said she needed to be around people who make better choices." Ashley's decision to remove herself from our family's toxic dynamics was smart and healthy. She had recognized the pattern of poor choices and criminal behavior, then protected herself by creating distance. "I'm working 2 jobs now to pay back the people I cheated. It's going to take me 3 years to make full restitution, but I'm committed to fixing what I broke." Marcus's acknowledgement of his crimes and commitment to restitution represented genuine growth. His consequences were teaching him lessons about personal responsibility that years of family enabling had prevented. When court reconvened, Judge Morrison delivered Harold's sentence with careful attention to both punishment and deterrence. "Mr. Thompson, your crimes represent a fundamental betrayal of community trust. You targeted the most vulnerable members of our society and exploited their trust for personal gain." She sentenced Harold to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. The restitution amount totaled $112,000 to be paid through wage garnishment after his release. "Your crimes didn't just harm individual victims, Mr. Thompson. They damaged community cohesion and made elderly residents afraid to trust their neighbors. The sentence reflects both the financial and emotional harm you've caused." Harold finally spoke during his allocution, offering what appeared to be genuine remorse. "Your Honor, I allowed gambling addiction and financial desperation to turn me into someone I don't recognize. I violated the trust of my family and my community, and I accept full responsibility for the pain I've caused." After the sentencing, Agent Williams provided updates about the ongoing investigation. "We've recovered about 60% of the stolen funds through asset seizure and insurance claims. It's not complete justice, but it's better than many identity theft cases." The media coverage of Harold's sentencing made national news as an example of family financial abuse and elder fraud. Several news organizations interviewed me about my experience, which helped raise awareness about these often hidden crimes. That evening, Diana and I celebrated the conclusion of the legal process with dinner at a quiet restaurant near my house. "How do you feel about everything being finished?" "Relieved, mostly. Also grateful that Harold's other victims got some justice." "You showed real courage by reporting his crimes. Many people in your situation stay silent to protect family relationships." "I learned that protecting abusive family relationships isn't actually protecting anything valuable." The legal process had been emotionally difficult, but ultimately healing. Seeing Harold face consequences for his criminal behavior provided closure and validation for all his victims. Justice had been served, and the community was safer because predatory criminals were being held accountable. As I drove home to my house that night, I felt a sense of peace that had been absent for months. The broken kitchen window had been repaired, the fraudulent debts had been removed from my credit report, and the protective order had been extended for another year. My fortress had been tested and proven strong. The legal system had protected me from family exploitation, and I had learned to protect myself through healthy boundaries and appropriate consequences for criminal behavior. The nightmare was finally over, and the real work of rebuilding healthy relationships could begin. 6 months after Harold's sentencing, my life had settled into a rhythm of healing and growth. The house that had once felt like a target for family exploitation had become a genuine sanctuary where I could breathe freely and make decisions based on my own values and priorities. The support group I founded for family financial abuse survivors met weekly in the community room at my local library. 12 regular attendees shared stories, resources, and encouragement as they navigated the complex process of rebuilding trust and financial security after being victimized by relatives. Family financial abuse is more common than people realize, I told the group during one of our discussions. It's estimated that 1 in 5 Americans has experienced some form of financial exploitation by family members. Sarah, a nurse whose brother had stolen her retirement savings, nodded with recognition. The hardest part is accepting that someone you love intentionally hurt you for money. The guilt is overwhelming, added Michael, whose parents had used his credit to fund their business ventures. Society tells us that family comes first no matter what. These weekly meetings had become an important part of my own healing process. Helping other survivors validated my experience and reinforced the importance of maintaining healthy boundaries with family members who couldn't be trusted with financial information. Carol had maintained regular counseling appointments and was slowly rebuilding her relationship with me. Our monthly coffee meetings were cautious but genuine, focusing on accountability rather than excuses. I've learned to recognize the difference between supporting family and enabling destructive behavior, she told me during our most recent conversation. "Your father's gambling addiction turned me into someone I didn't recognize." "How are you managing financially now?" "The senior apartment is perfect for me. I have a budget that I stick to, and I've learned to find satisfaction in small pleasures instead of trying to buy happiness." Carol's transformation represented genuine change rather than temporary remorse. Her commitment to financial counseling and accountability demonstrated that people could learn from their mistakes when they faced appropriate consequences. Marcus had completed his community service requirement and was making steady progress on his restitution payments. His landscaping business was growing through honest work and word-of-mouth referrals from satisfied customers. "I had to start over completely," he told me during a supervised family dinner at Carol's apartment. None of my old clients would work with me after the theft charges became public. Building a new customer base has been humbling. But you're doing it honestly now. Yes, and I'm making enough money to pay my debts and support myself. It turns out that honest work is more satisfying than quick schemes. Marcus's relationship with Ashley had ended permanently, but he spoke of her with respect and understanding. She was right to leave. I wasn't trustworthy or mature enough to be a good partner. Maybe someday I will be, but that's years away. His acknowledgement of personal responsibility and commitment to long-term change represented the kind of growth that genuine consequences could create. Prison time might have been more dramatic, but accountability through restitution and community service was teaching him valuable lessons about earning trust through consistent behavior. Harold had been released from federal prison after serving 16 months and was now living in a halfway house while working at a warehouse job. His wages were garnished to pay restitution to his victims, and he was required to attend gambling addiction counseling twice weekly. I hadn't spoken to him directly since his sentencing, but Agent Williams provided occasional updates about his progress. He's complying with all the terms of his supervised release. The gambling counseling seems to be helpful. Does he ask about me? Sometimes, but he understands that rebuilding trust with you isn't his decision to make. It's yours. Harold's acceptance of my boundaries represented perhaps the first healthy choice he had made regarding our relationship. After years of manipulation and exploitation, he was finally respecting my right to determine the terms of any future contact. My career had flourished in the stable environment of my own home. The marketing agency had promoted me to senior coordinator with a significant salary increase, recognizing my ability to handle crisis situations with professionalism and integrity. Jennifer, my supervisor, had become a genuine mentor and friend. Your grace under pressure during that family crisis impressed everyone here. You never let personal drama affect your work quality or professional relationships. The promotion allowed me to accelerate my mortgage payments and build a substantial emergency fund. Financial security felt different now that I understood the importance of protecting it from family members who viewed my success as their opportunity. My social life had expanded to include friends from the support group neighbors who had rallied around me during the crisis and coworkers who respected my commitment to healthy boundaries. These relationships were based on mutual respect rather than financial obligation or family guilt. Dating had been challenging initially as I struggled to trust people's motivations and worried about sharing financial information. But therapy and time had helped me develop the skills to build relationships gradually and recognize red flags before they became serious problems. Dr. Patricia Reeves, my therapist, helped me process the complex emotions of loving family members who had betrayed me. Forgiveness doesn't require forgetting or returning to previous relationship patterns. You can forgive someone while still protecting yourself from future harm. How do I know if I'm ready to have contact with Harold again? When you can interact with him without feeling obligated to provide financial support or emotional caretaking. When you can say no to his requests without feeling guilty. The therapy process had been essential for understanding the family dynamics that had made me vulnerable to financial exploitation. Learning to recognize manipulation tactics and maintain boundaries had improved all my relationships, not just family ones. The scholarship fund I established for young adults escaping family financial abuse had grown through community donations and corporate partnerships. 3 recipients had used the funding to complete college degrees without relying on family support that came with strings attached. Your scholarship gave me the freedom to focus on my education instead of worrying about family drama, wrote Jennifer, the first recipient. I graduated debt-free and with the confidence to build an independent life. The scholarship program represented my commitment to helping other young people avoid the financial entanglement and emotional manipulation that had dominated my early adulthood. Education and independence were the best protection against family exploitation. 6 months after Harold's release from prison, he sent a letter requesting permission to attend Carol's 70th birthday celebration. The request was respectful and included acknowledgement of my right to refuse without explanation. After careful consideration and consultation with Dr. Reeves, I agreed to attend the small family gathering with clear boundaries about conversation topics and duration. The dinner was awkward but civil, focusing on Carol's achievements in financial recovery rather than past conflicts. Harold looked older and more subdued than I remembered. His year in prison and ongoing financial struggles had clearly taken a toll, but he appeared genuinely committed to making amends through actions rather than words. "I don't expect forgiveness," he told me privately after dinner. "I just want you to know that I understand the damage I caused, and I'm working every day to become someone worthy of your respect." His acknowledgement of the harm he had caused was more meaningful than elaborate apologies would have been. Actions over time would determine whether his rehabilitation was genuine or temporary. As spring arrived, I hosted the first annual Financial Independence Day celebration in my backyard. 25 members of the support group and their families gathered to celebrate milestones in financial recovery and independence. The party featured a potluck dinner, financial literacy workshops for teenagers, and recognition awards for group members who had achieved major goals like debt payoff or emergency fund completion. The atmosphere was festive and empowering, celebrating strength rather than victimhood. "This house represents more than homeownership," I told the group as we gathered for the award ceremony. "It represents the possibility of building a life based on your own values and priorities, free from exploitation and manipulation." The celebration concluded with each attendee sharing one lesson they had learned about family relationships and financial boundaries. The wisdom shared by survivors of family financial abuse was profound and hard-earned. I learned that healthy family relationships require mutual respect and support, not one-way financial flow, shared David, whose sister had stolen his identity. I discovered that saying no to unreasonable requests actually protects family relationships by preventing resentment and exploitation, added Linda, whose parents had demanded her inheritance money. When my turn came, I reflected on the journey from that lonely house signing to this celebration of community and healing. I learned that loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing your financial security or self-respect. True family supports your success rather than exploiting it. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential for healthy relationships. I looked around my backyard at the faces of people who had found the courage to protect themselves from family financial abuse. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable destructive behavior, even when it's painful. When we stop rescuing family members from the consequences of their poor choices, we give them the opportunity to learn and grow. The evening concluded with hugs, exchanges of contact information, and commitments to continue supporting each other's journey toward financial and emotional independence. This community of survivors had become my chosen family, built on shared values and mutual respect. As I cleaned up after the party, I felt deep gratitude for the path that had led me to this moment. The crisis that had threatened to destroy my financial security and family relationships had ultimately taught me invaluable lessons about self-respect, healthy boundaries, and the difference between love and enabling. My house stood as a symbol of independence and the possibility of building a life based on personal values rather than family pressure. The fortress I had built to protect my dreams had become a sanctuary for others seeking their own freedom from financial exploitation. The broken kitchen window had been replaced with stronger glass, just as my broken trust in family relationships had been replaced with healthier boundaries and more realistic expectations. Some damage could be repaired in ways that made you stronger than before. Looking toward the future, I felt confident in my ability to maintain financial independence while building genuine relationships based on mutual respect and support. The lessons learned through crisis had prepared me for a lifetime of healthy choices and meaningful connections. The sun set behind my house as I reflected on how much had changed since that silent moment at the title company. The journey from victim to survivor to advocate had been difficult but transformative. I had learned to protect what I had built while helping others find their own path to freedom and independence. Family financial abuse survivors often struggle with guilt about setting boundaries with relatives who exploit their success. But I learned that protecting yourself from exploitation isn't selfish. It's necessary for building genuine relationships based on love rather than financial obligation. True family celebrates your achievements rather than viewing them as opportunities for personal gain. When family members demand financial support as proof of love, they're not asking for help. They're demanding tribute. The difference matters more than most people realize. If you've experienced family financial pressure or exploitation, what boundaries have you found most important for protecting your financial security while maintaining family relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this story if it resonated with your experience. Subscribe for more stories about family dynamics and personal growth, and share this with anyone who might benefit from hearing about the possibility of healing after family financial abuse. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you find the courage to protect what you've worked so hard to build. You deserve relationships that celebrate your success rather than exploit it.